Mother's Day is the one day of the year nobody questions anything. You show up, you eat the meal, you say the things you're supposed to say, you hug the woman who raised you, and you don't look too hard at anything because it's Mother's Day and everything is supposed to be fine. That's what makes it dangerous. Before we begin, if you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell. New horror stories every week, and you will not want to miss what's coming. Tonight, I have 3 stories for you. 3 accounts that were sent to me, each one set on Mother's Day, each one about a mother, and each one about what happens when the people who love her most stop looking the other way. I've read a lot of horror in my time, collected a lot of accounts, but these 3, these stayed with me, because the scariest part of each one isn't the thing in the dark, it's the love that let it in. The first story is called She Came Home. My mother called me on the morning of Mother's Day to say she was coming for dinner. I want to be clear, my mother never called ahead. In 31 years of knowing her, she had never once announced her arrival. She showed up. That was her nature. You heard her car in the driveway, and 30 seconds later she was in your kitchen asking why you didn't have fresh flowers. So when my phone rang at 8 in the morning and her name was on the screen and her voice said she was coming for dinner and she was looking forward to seeing all of us, I noticed. My wife noticed me notice. She asked if everything was all right. I said yes. I told myself it was fine. People change. She arrived at 4, dark slacks, blue blouse, the same silver earring she'd worn since the 90s. She brought a pie she said she'd made herself, which she had not done in years. She hugged my wife. She hugged the kids. She sat at the head of the table and smiled at all of us like we were a painting she was proud of. My daughter Emma, who is 9 and sees everything, climbed into my lap before dinner and whispered in my ear, "Daddy, Grandma smells different." I told her it was probably a new perfume. Emma shook her head. "It's not perfume. It's like outside, like dirt and outside." I sent her to wash her hands. Dinner was fine, normal. My mother told stories from her childhood, ones I'd heard before, mostly accurate. She ate everything on a plate. She complimented the food twice, and she helped clear the table without being asked, which she had never done once in her life. That was the moment it started to pull at me. Not the smell, not the phone call, the clearing of the table. My mother did not clear tables. My mother sat at tables and held court and let the world orbit her. It was not a flaw, it was simply who she was. You knew where you stood with her. She was the sun, and you were grateful for the warmth. This woman was clearing my table and humming softly, and the tune was wrong, close to something I recognized, but bent, like a song heard through a wall. I excused myself and went to the bathroom and called my mother's landline from my cell. She picked up on the second ring. "Hello?" My mother's voice, her real voice, the one with the slight rasp from 40 years of coffee, the one that always sounded faintly impatient even when she was happy. I couldn't speak for a moment. "Hello? Who's this?" "Mom," I kept my voice low. "Where are you right now?" A pause. "I'm home. Where else would I be? I've had a headache all day. I didn't feel up to making the drive." I walked back to the dining room. She was still at the table, helping my wife with something, laughing at something my son had said. Blue blouse, silvered earrings, smiling at my family like a painting she was proud of. My wife looked up and saw my face. She started to ask what was wrong. I opened my mouth. The lights went out. Not a flicker, not a surge, all at once, clean and total, every light in the house. 3 seconds of pure dark, and then they came back on. My wife was staring at me. My kids were staring at me. She was staring at me, and for the first time all evening, she wasn't smiling. She was watching me with an expression I'd never seen on my mother's face, something flat and patient and faintly curious,
the way you watch a small animal that doesn't yet know it's cornered. "You've always been the perceptive one," she said. Her voice was close, but not right, like a recording of my mother played back at the wrong speed. "She told me about you, said you'd be the one to notice. My wife said my name, my son said my name. My daughter climbed out of a chair and walked to the other side of the table and stood next to it, next to her. Daddy," Emma said. Her voice was different, flat, patient. My wife turned to look at Emma. Then my wife turned back to me. Same expression, flat, patient. I looked at my family. They looked at me like I was the stranger at the table. She smiled at the head of the table, my mother's smile, on a face that had learned it very recently. "Happy Mother's Day," she said. I haven't spoken to anyone who was in that house since that night.
There's something about that story that I keep returning to. The clearing of the table. The one detail that was almost right, but wasn't. Almost. The second story arrived in my messages 3 weeks ago from a man I'll call Daniel. He asked me not to use his real name. He said what happened to him on Mother's Day last year was something he'd told no one, not his friends, not his therapist, nobody, because saying it out loud made it real in a way he wasn't ready for. I told him I understood. He sent me everything. This story is called The Voicemails. My mother passed away 14 months ago on a Wednesday in March. I'm telling you this up front because I need you to understand the context for what I'm about to describe. I need you to know that I'm not someone who believes in things without evidence. I'm a data analyst. I work with numbers and patterns and verifiable information. I do not believe in coincidences, and I do not believe in things I cannot explain. What happened on Mother's Day has no explanation I can accept. The first voicemail came at 7:43 in the morning. I was still in bed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I reached for it without thinking, the habit of checking before you're fully awake. Voicemail notification. Unknown number. I almost dismissed it. I didn't. A voice came through the speaker, and I sat up so fast I knocked the phone off the bed. "Hi, sweetheart. Just calling to say Happy Mother's Day. I hope you're sleeping in. You work too hard. I love you. Call me when you're up." My mother's voice, the rasp, the warmth, the specific cadence of her sentences that I had not heard in 14 months and had not realized until that moment how much I had been listening for. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Then I called the number back. Disconnected. Not out of service. Disconnected, like it had never been assigned. I told myself it was a mistake, a misdial, a recycled number, a woman somewhere whose voice simply resembled my mother's in a way grief had amplified into certainty. The second voicemail came at 9:15. "It's me again. I know you're probably up by now. I wanted to hear your voice. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I want you to know that I'm okay. I need you to know that. Will you call me back?" I played it 11 times. The third came at 11, the fourth at 1, each one a little quieter, a little further away, like a signal losing strength across a great distance. She talked about small things, a recipe she'd been thinking about, a show she thought I'd like, normal things, the things we used to talk about before she got sick, and the conversations narrowed to medical things, practical things, the logistics of leaving. By the 8th voicemail, I was in my car in the parking lot of a gas station because I couldn't be inside anymore, and I couldn't drive. I was just sitting there, listening, playing them back. The 11th voicemail was different. "I don't have much time left to call. I need you to listen to me. What's in the house, what's been in the house, has been there before I got sick. I think it made me sick. I should have told you sooner. I didn't know how. Please don't go back to the message cut out. I called the number 17 times. The 11th voicemail came at 11:58 p.m. Silence for 4 seconds.
Then my mother's voice, but this time wrong, hollowed out, like the warmth had been removed and only the mechanics of her voice remained. She can't talk anymore, but I can. The line went dead. I drove to the cemetery. I don't remember deciding to go. I was just there, standing at her grave in the dark with my phone in my hand, the call log open. I stood there until the sun came up. When I finally looked at my phone, the call time stamps told me I had been standing there for 6 hours. All 11 voicemails are still in my phone. I have not been able to delete them. Not because I've tried and failed, because every time I open the app to delete them, there are 12 now. I haven't listened to the 12th.
Daniel ended his account there. He said there's nothing after that. No resolution, no explanation, no visit from anything he could identify. Just the voicemails that keep multiplying and the one he won't listen to. I think about that a lot. The discipline it takes to not listen. The fear that must be bigger than the grief. The last story is one I found rather than received, a post on a forum I won't name, from an account that has since been deleted. The username was simply "Found the Room." The post was titled "The Nursery." My mother died in February and left me the house. I had not been inside it since I was 17, when I left and did not look back. My mother and I were not close. I won't say she was cruel, she wasn't. She was cold, which is different. She was precise and self-contained, and our relationship had the texture of two people politely sharing a space. I don't think she knew how to love the way other people did. I made my peace with that a long time ago. The house needed work before I could sell it. I started with the bedroom, then the kitchen, then worked my way toward the back. The house was smaller than I remembered. Childhood has a way of scaling things up. Everything felt compressed, manageable, until I got to the hallway off the laundry room. I'd been in that hallway 1,000 times, grew up in that house. I knew every inch of it. So when I pushed a stack of boxes away from the back wall while clearing space and felt the wall move, not fall, not crack, move, like a door on a stiff hinge, I stood there for a long time before I did anything else. It was a door. Painted over, the same color as the wall, the frame packed with old caulk, a handle that had been removed and plastered over, a small hole where it used to be. I don't know why I opened it. Inside, a nursery. Small room, no window, a crib against the far wall, bars white with old paint, a changing table, a small bookshelf with picture books arranged by size, a table child-sized with 2 chairs, a mobile above the crib, the kind with small animals that spin in a circle. Everything was dusty. Everything looked as though it had not been touched in decades. Almost everything. The small chair on the left side of the table, the one that hadn't been moved, was pulled out, not left pushed in like the other, pulled out, angled slightly, the way you leave a chair when you've been sitting and you stand up and you forget to push it back. I found the journal behind the bookshelf, pushed flat against the wall. My mother's handwriting, date on the first entry, 3 months before I was born. She wrote about the pregnancy, fear, uncertainty, a word that appeared twice that I had to reread to be sure I'd understood. Contingency. She used the word contingency. I kept reading. The entries described a second pregnancy, a twin, a boy born 7 minutes before me, she wrote, who arrived wrong in a way she could not specify. Not physically wrong, she was careful to say that, just wrong. She used the word wrong 4 times. She made a decision, an arrangement, another family. The entries referred to him only as the other one. The last entry was dated 3 days after my 3rd birthday. He is everything I hoped for. Warm, bright, loves to laugh.
The room is no longer necessary. I should have it redone. Maybe I'll leave it a little longer, just in case. I closed the journal. I sat in the small chair on the right side of the table, the one that hadn't been moved, and I tried to understand what I'd just read. And I thought, just in case of what? I found the photograph when I was putting the journal back, tucked flat under the crib mattress. A photograph printed recently. The paper still had a slight chemical smell. Recent enough to mean weeks, not years. A photograph of my house, not my mother's house. My house, the one I own, the one I live in now, 300 miles from where I was sitting. Taken from the street, at an angle, at night. My living room window lit from within. My silhouette visible at the glass. Someone knows where I live. Someone who grew up knowing he had a brother. Someone who has been waiting 34 years for me to open that wall. I left the house that night, and I haven't been back. I don't know where he is, but I know he knows where I am.
3 stories, 3 mothers, 3 doors that should have stayed closed. I've thought a lot about why these accounts stay with me the way they do. Horror is full amongst us, things that come from outside, things that break in, things that follow you home. But the thing that all 3 of these stories share is that the door was already open. The love was already there. The trust was already given. That's what makes Mother's Day dangerous. Not because something evil chooses it, but because we let our guard down on purpose. We show up, we eat the meal, we say the things we're supposed to say, and we don't look too hard because it's Mother's Day and everything is supposed to be fine. If these stories kept you up tonight, subscribe. New horror every week. And if you want the longer version of any one of these accounts, the ones with details I couldn't include here, let me know in the comments which story you want. I'll go deeper. Sleep well.